understand to the best of our ability that root cause, understand history, understand lifestyle, and then put all of that together to then try to work to balance the immune system, to eliminate, is it toxicants, is it toxic relationships, is it toxic microbes, all of these things that make the body mad and make it dysfunctional. And
cue music. Places, everybody places. We're starting in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Autoimmune Hour, where we look at the rise of autoimmune disorders. I've brought together top experts that range from doctors, specialists, nutritionists, researchers, and even those recovering from autoimmune to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information about autoimmunity and how to live your life uninterrupted.
Thank you for joining us here on the Autoimmune Hour with Sharon Sayler. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio. Join the Autoimmune Hour's Courage Club. Sign up now at understandingautoimmune.com. Now, back to your host, Sharon Sayler.
Welcome, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com. And as always, it's my honor and pleasure to be with you here on another brand new episode. We have a return guest, and we're going to talk about a topic I haven't talked about. And I'm thinking, I didn't know that was possible, but it is. We're going to talk about fertility and conception. And I know. I was thinking about this. I've had a couple of shows on menopause because that's kind of where I am. But I realize that a lot of my audience is not here. They're in a different path they're in a different part of this path. And so that's why I invited the wonderful Nikki Burnett back. She's been on the show before, and she's a functional nutritionist and founder of Taste Life Nutrition. And we like to call her a health detective because she really loves to figure out things that are complex or a little bit like, I don't know, let's check it out. And after suffering for a 2-year headache, that affected every part of her life and dealing with the frustration of feeling helpless and couldn't find the answers, she decided to take her life back into her own hands. Here, Nikki. That's fantastic. Over time and through consistent research, she took many different health modalities and things like that, and she combined them all together to be able to find her own answers. And that's what this show is about, is helping you find guidance in your own answers. Because if the one thing I've learned since 2015 in doing this show is that we are all unique and you're not alone. I know that's kind of the people are like, what are you talking about? Part of our community, you're not alone. Even if you may not have the exact same symptoms as someone else, we still get it. We still get that idea of this medical whack-a-mole and all of these other things, people not believing you and all of that. But that's why Nikki's here. And one of her expertise is helping couples have babies. I just love it. Yeah. And so I said, let's talk about that. And in regards to what happens if you or your partner have a diagnosis. So welcome back to the show, Nikki. It's so good to see you again.
Thank you. It's so good to be back. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your audience. And I love that, you talk about we're all individual and in a sense, building your team. So there's the community, and part of that community is your team of people who are there to help to guide you. We all need a team in all sorts of ways. So I think that it's really important to have that for simple stuff and super complex stuff.
Absolutely. And I have 5 members on my team. I've collected them over the years. And that's the thing. You got to find the people on your team that get you and you get them, that there's good conversation, there's honesty both ways, you can say anything to them, and that they're open-minded. And I find, as I was going through my journey of finding the right healthcare team, at first I didn't realize I was doing some things called medical gaslighting, where people were telling you it's all in your head, and then you begin to think, what's wrong with me kinds of things. Yeah. And so, yes, that's what I love when you find a team. And just a side note, make sure that they're willing to talk to each other.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Nothing's worse than one person telling you something and then you're trying to relay it to the other person and then it gets all muddled like that game of telephone. So,
Yeah, it can be so difficult when there's someone on your team, and I hear about this a lot, who doesn't want to communicate, or they're busy. We get that, practitioners are always really busy, and that's fine. But when someone's dealing with complex issues, you have to have the people on your team who are going to communicate with each other, who that you can trust. And sometimes it takes a little time to build that team. You might go through a few people and do some interviewing. I think it's important to interview the people who you want on your team, who are going to help to, I always say, to help build you up, but then also to guide you in how to best, help you alleviate symptoms, maybe even, for autoimmune conditions, go into remission, which is certainly possible.
yeah, absolutely, certainly possible. I'm there. So,
Yeah.
didn't get there overnight, though. Got there with a team,
Mhm.
and I did change my team up over time to where
Yep.
right now I have a fabulous 5-person team, and they all have different areas of expertise. And what I love is that they appreciate each other's areas of expertise,
Mhm.
and they can see how, as they're stronger too, getting to know each other. And what's fabulous is I'm finding that they're more and more working as a team on other things. It's fabulous.
It is, and I love it when that happens, because you start to find people who do want to support others, and then they work well together. And when you work well together as a team, you want to keep that for others who come in. And so I love that. Good for you. I think that's great.
Oh, I'm blessed all the time. I'm telling them all the time, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Good.
Now, I know that you have some very specialized types of things that you love to do. And one of them is helping people have babies. I know that's when the title of your company and all of that, it sounds a little different, but just tell us, how did you get into having that as one of your specialties?
It's interesting. From prior to my time in as deciding to become a nutritionist. So my background is animal science, and I fell in love with reproductive physiology back in undergrad, and studied reproductive physiology through grad school. But then after that, with horses. I was breeding horses, and it was like, what am I doing with my life? This really isn't where I want to go. But I loved the reproductive physiology, and deeper than that, I love the miracle of creation. I think it's this fascinating, beautiful miracle that we get to see every single day. And I think a lot of times we take it for granted a little bit, because we do see it multiple times every single day. People are having babies, and it's amazing. And two people can come together and create another little person. I just find it's beautiful, and it is truly miraculous the way that it works, and how there is so much perfection in it all coming together to make it all happen. So move way forward, building my practice, and what I see in practice a lot is GI and autoimmune disease. But with that being said, I still had some fertility clients, but what I would see a lot is I'm having this struggle, and then one day I want to have babies, and I don't want to have to deal with this struggle, and I want to be healthy before going out and trying to have babies. And it's hard enough to deal with some of the things that go along with pregnancy and delivery. You don't want to bring on all of these symptoms that you're having along with it. So what all of this over the last year and a half or so has sort of culminated into, which is really fun, is bringing together all of my loves. I love helping people with GI dysfunction and autoimmune conditions, but my love of reproductive health and reproductive physiology and the miracle of having babies, and then epigenetics. And so just a brief description for those who may not understand what epigenetics is. So we have our genome, and we have locations on top of our genes that have the ability to turn on and off. And so these variants turn on and off, and they are what create gene expression. And so these variants turn on and off by diet, lifestyle, sleep, trauma, toxicants in the air, movement, all of these things, for the most part, that we have an amazing amount of control over. We have control over what we put into our mouth and what we put on our skin and what we clean our homes with and what we clean our clothes with and we put in our yards and our gardens and so forth. And so all of these things are the things that turn on and off these variants. They're called SNPs, or single nucleotide polymorphisms, but to make it more simple, it's these variants. We have this control, and it brings a lot of accountability onto us as the individual. But beyond that, it gives us the power. It gives us the power to create our own health. It gives us the power to say, I don't have to sit back and let somebody else control my future. I fully believe we are co-creators in our future. I believe that God has a mission for us here on earth, and then we just have to take the time to follow it, right? And when we don't feel good, it's hard to follow. It's hard for us to be our optimal. It's hard for us to do the things that we're supposed to do here in life to make a difference in life. And so with epigenetics and preconception care, what that tells us is our health today has the ability to impact fertility, pregnancy, the health of the child as an adult. But the most fascinating thing to me, and probably not everybody else, I don't know, but it has the ability to impact the health of the children and great-grandchildren for 7 generations to come.
That's shocking. 7 generations. That's way out there.
It's way out there. But it's this amazing power that we have. I'm going to back up real quick briefly, because what I see a lot in practice is people come to me feeling disempowered. I don't know what's wrong with my body. I don't know why my body's rebelling. And I know, Sharon, that you've certainly felt this way too. Anybody who's suffered with any kind of chronic condition, you're like, why does my body hate me? Why does food hate me? I'm not sure what to do with myself. The doctor tells me there's nothing wrong with me, or the doctor says there's nothing wrong with you. Let's put you on antidepressants. And that's not the answer that I'm looking for. And I'm thankful that most people say a lot of people say that's not the answer that I'm looking for. When what we do as practitioners, and then what we do as in understanding epigenetics, is giving that power back. It's about helping people understand their body, helping people understand the amount of power that they do have. So let's take that power, let's jump into that power, and let's say, okay, I need to find my team, or I need to figure this out on my own, or whatever it takes to dig for whatever that root cause is of whatever it is that you're dealing with, to be the healthiest that you can possibly be, to then create that healthy baby, which is the most important, but then of course the healthy future that we need, because we're sort of in a spot right now where there's a lot of sickness going on, which is really sad.
Sickness and exposures. I think a lot of times that we're not even aware of some of the precursors to this illness is, as you had mentioned, toxins and everything from cleaning products to the air we breathe, the molds, all the things like that, different toxins, and even in our food, heavy metals. Oh my goodness, I read an article the other day, heavy metals in chocolate. How dare they? I was just like, how dare they?
It's hard. There are heavy metals in spices. So
yes,
I'll be really, really quick, but this is so interesting, and I think it's really important. It really kind of puts a pretty bow on what you just said. Conventional, just mainstream stores have shown their spices are high in heavy metals. I have a client who I had told him, you need to take this product. It's a really, really, it's an expensive, but it works really well. It's a curcumin product. And so he took it for a while. Then he decided, well, it's too expensive. So I'm just going to order turmeric in the powder form from India. So,
okay.
So he ended up, and this is the part, I think it was lead or arsenic toxicity. some kind of heavy metal because of what was in the turmeric, which turmeric's great, but it's not so great if it's full of heavy metals. And so he had to go through then a whole other set of, protocols in order to eliminate these heavy metals from his body after taking this turmeric for so long.
Which brings me up to an interesting point of, we're not talking about just the care of the health and optimizing the physical and mental, emotional for the woman, the birthing parent, but also for the partner as well, because it's a joint operation.
50-50, right?
so I get to, as a wonderful team, they're working together to create the healthiest bodies that they have, to be able to continue to do that. So it's not just if one of the people have an autoimmune condition, it's like, okay, oftentimes there's family dynamics around diet, lifestyle, things like that, that maybe the other person isn't expressing an autoimmune condition or some other thing, but they've certainly been exposed to it.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit about what are the first steps. Maybe I've been diagnosed, and let's say I'm feeling pretty good, so I'm not having a current flare. And I come to Nikki and I say, we want to expand our family. What are a couple of the first steps that someone goes through to begin that process?
So for me, I'm always, I can't help but to want to just dig as deep as I can. So yes, you have the diagnosis. Why do you have the diagnosis? And that's what I always want to impart on anybody who I talk to. And I probably say way too much, but always ask why. So you have a diagnosis. The body doesn't, you don't have an autoimmune condition just because you have an autoimmune condition, right? You talked about the exposures that you have. It's not just like, oh, well, that's just the way it's meant to be. My family had it, and so I have it now. And it's where a lot of people think, it's all over my family, so now it's me. Not the case. Again, it goes back to all of the things that are in our world, including trauma and stress and some of these things that are a little bit outside of our control. We can't always control that we've been through a traumatic situation that can make these things express. So what I like to do is I do a full intake, and it takes people, especially people who have some history, takes some time. But it's a piece of software developed through the Institute for Functional Medicine that really helps me dig in as much as possible to their life from before their birth until today. And it's interesting too, because sometimes you can see on this timeline that's printed out, you can see a point where I ask the question, what was going on at this point? Because then that's when you start to see symptoms go up and up and up and up and up. And a lot of times it was a stressful time or a traumatic time that kind of started the progressive, the progressiveness, what's my words? I'm losing them, toward autoimmune disease, right?
Right, the progression towards autoimmune disease.
Wow, thank you, yes. That happens way too often. So at that point, I just want to run labs. And I don't want to just run labs, but I want to dig in. Okay, could it be trauma? But could there be infection? And if you have infection, why is there infection? Right? We can have gallbladder dysfunction and liver dysfunction, and again, mycotoxin exposure that can create more infection, and so many of these things that can all come together to then burden the body to such an extent that then it essentially goes haywire, right? Autoimmune disease, in case somebody's new, which probably you have, I know you have so many listeners, but autoimmune disease is your body attacking its own tissue. So it is very dysfunctional. And so we want to understand to the best of our ability that root cause, understand history, understand lifestyle, and then put all of that together to then try to work to balance the immune system, to eliminate, is it toxicants, is it toxic relationships, is it toxic microbes, all of these things that make the body mad and make it dysfunctional. And so do our best then to lower antibodies in order to allow for balance and repair. And so often autoimmune disease comes from gut dysfunction for again, a number of different reasons. but we have to address gut health in order to allow for the body to start to calm and the immune system to start to calm.
Yeah. I know that's a common definition of it, of the body attacking itself, but I like to always put there in with an asterisk of it's not doing it for no reason at all.
Right.
It's been
Exactly.
agitated, it's been irritated, something has happened to cause it to go into hyperdrive. And this is something that I talk about because the immune system is a beautiful thing. It's just like a fine car, like a sports car. We just have to continue to tune it up. But, you know, it'll fall into being a clunker if you just run it into the ground and don't put any oil in it, things like that. So,
Yep. That's a great way of putting it.
we got to fine tune this, especially if we're going to make babies. We want to make sure we're going into it in our best health as well, because not just for the health and safety of the baby, but for the health and the safety of the mother. Because to me, you know, there's a lot of maternal death. And so we got to make sure that, you know, everybody's doing the very best they can. And at that, we need to take a quick commercial break. We'll just leave it right there. We'll come back. We'll talk some more with Nikki about what to do next, and we'll be right back.
The Autoimmune Hour will return after these messages from our sponsors. It's great sponsors like these that keep this show coming to you every week. Be sure and stop by understandingautoimmune.com to learn more.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance. Say hi, guys. When I adopted them, I discovered that they both have incredible personalities. Chance's sole purpose in life is to love and to be loved. Frankie is a little bit of a scoundrel and always entertaining. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Sharon, and of course you know me from here on the Autoimmune Hour. Maybe you don't know I'm also an author. My latest book is for kids. It's Pinky Chenille and the Rainbow Hunters, a winner of a 5-star reader's favorite review. It's perfect for your early reader and a great bedtime story for your young adventurers. Check it out over at pinkychenille.com. That's PinkyChenille.com. See you there.
Research shows we apologize up to 10 times a day, and most of the time, we say sorry as a response to someone else's mistake. What if we thanked people instead of all that unnecessary apologizing? So instead of saying, sorry, I'm rambling, you say, thank you for listening. Join us at projectforgive.com, a free, non-religious resource on global forgiveness.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com, and I'm here with my friend Nikki Burnett. She's a functional nutritionist and founder of Taste Life Nutrition, and I love to call her a health detective. And one of her just loves, her passions, are helping people have babies.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you have an autoimmune condition, it can be really scary. Your body is already out of control. And being someone who has had babies, I could tell you that was a part of time where I felt my body was doing its own thing. You know, it's like, it was really cool. It was really cool, but I'm glad that at the time I was in really good health, because I think that's the important part, not only for the baby to come out and be healthy and strong, but if you go into this not feeling tip top, you know what? There can be some not so nice outcomes. So let's talk about preconception planning, especially when you have a diagnosis, Nikki.
So the interesting thing, as I dig more and more into this, is there's some good science behind taking the time to prepare. So if you are a year out, 2 years out, it doesn't really matter, but even if it's 6 months, taking that time to prepare your body to make sure it's to the best of your ability, it's tip top, that significantly reduces negative outcomes. And so you use your imagination with negative outcomes, but that's the goal, right? We want to feel good during pregnancy. We want to do our best during the birthing process and feel good while we have, while we're, trying to nurse and we're tired and do all the things. We want to have the energy for all of that. And so preparing beforehand is your best bet in creating all of the best outcomes that you possibly can.
So as we're talking about preparing beforehand, and I also want to bring in that both people, I like to make sure that both of them are preparing, healthy dad, healthy mom.
Yes.
So I mean, I'm wondering if people are like, do you ever get like pushback? I'm just curious, like if they're like, what's the big deal? Except when you have a diagnosis, I guess you already know it's a big deal, right?
So yeah, I think it's not that I get pushback, because most people seem to respond well to what I'm saying. I think what it is more is when people are ready, they're just ready. They're like, I don't want to prepare. I'm married. It's my time. Let's just go. And I'm in a hurry and I want to do it and I want to go now. Okay.
So what are some of the first steps that in your preconception plan that people have to look at?
So we start out with basics, and I always want to start with people, where they are. We got to understand food. We got to understand food at its core, right? And so food we all have these, different relationships with food. We love it or we hate it, or going back to what I said a little while ago, why does food hate me? I eat it and I feel bad and I don't understand. And so taking all of that away and taking it down to its core is food as a language. And so that's how our body knows what to do, is by the nutrients that are in the food. It speaks to our cells, it speaks to our DNA. When we're eating good, healthy food, our body says, okay, I got this, I feel good. When we're not eating great food and it's full of a bunch of junk and toxins and so forth, then the body finally goes, all right, I'm out. I don't know what to do. I don't know what you're trying to tell me to do. And so I'm just going to kind of go do what I do. And so sometimes that's, when autoimmunity comes up, or maybe it's diabetes, or, all of the hundreds or thousands of different conditions that can happen is because it's a symptom, or it's a bunch of symptoms together called a disease. And so understanding the importance of food and why certain foods are better than others. And I'm not going to go into this, but just an example, conventional meat versus grass-fed meat, right? So that's a good example of, let's dig into the details of why some foods are better than others, so there's not as much confusion. And then we can go as deep as, looking at labs. We want to understand why dairy is good for some people, maybe, and maybe not for other people, and certainly not people with autoimmune disease. Why is gluten a problem? So why is sugar a problem? So really digging into the details so people can take that knowledge and apply it to themselves. And then if we want to move on and, start to really dig into, sleep, we want to understand mindset. We want to understand why it's important to address the negative self-talk, why it's important to take the time to meditate and pray and to not eat on the run. We can go on and on and on. We can go into epigenetics from going backwards, right? So we can affect 7 generations behind us, but who we are now in part is we affect seven generations ahead of us. But we are 7 generations behind us. So we have whatever has happened epigenetically to our ancestors, trauma genes, whatever the case may be, impacts us today and impacts who we are today. So do we need to talk with someone who can help us deal with that ancestral piece of it as well? And I say that because I have a friend, a colleague, a referral partner, all of the things, but that's what she does. Because if our mind is not in the right space, if we don't understand the things that we do and why we do them, and it's because of family history, and we can release that, then that takes the stress off the body, and the body's like, okay, now I'm ready. Let's go have a baby.
So many places to go with that.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to comment on is the story of the past traumas reminded me of a friend who I complimented not too long ago. They're much younger than I am, and they have semi-little ones. But I complimented them because I knew their parents and complimented them on, wow, you're a great parent. And they really are. Very impressive. And since I have some knowledge of their past history, that to me was pleasantly wonderful to see. So I wanted to make sure they understood someone out there was acknowledging this. And it was interesting, their statement back to me. When I found out that I was going to be a parent, I made a commitment to myself that I was going to be the very best parent I could be. And I didn't want to be that parent, and that they were talking about their own.
Yeah.
And I was wow. I complimented them again because I wanted to reinforce good choice.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, and this doesn't come from my experience. Again, it comes from my colleagues' experience, but there are people who are trying to get pregnant and struggling with it, but their mindset is, I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like my mom. So what's the body saying? I don't want to be a mom. I don't want to be a mom. I don't want to be a mom. Right. And there's so much to that. It's amazing and it's deep. But there's a lot.
It amazes me about the mind. I remember one time when I was in intense pain, and the shifting from I don't want the pain, because I was told that the body or the unconscious mind doesn't understand don't. It doesn't understand that difference of, like, if you say don't run, it doesn't know what that means. But if you say walk, it will go, oh, okay, I'll walk. So that was a wonderful lesson I had during an intense pain session, was like, let's just reframe how you're talking about this to yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's something that probably most everybody needs to work on. I work on things like that every day, but it's really coming back to, I tend to work more on the physical, but this is why I have people who I love and trust and know who have the other pieces of the puzzle, because sometimes, the physical is affected by the mental and emotional and vice versa. And we have to acknowledge that, and we have to be aware of it, and we have to know how to dig to understand what is that root cause. And there's lots of times there's multiple root causes, but I think a lot of times we think, okay, it's all physical. I'm struggling to get pregnant and it's all physical, when that may not be the case at all.
Right. Maybe not a full component of it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The other one that caught my attention when you mentioned sleep, I was like, good luck, get it now.
I know. Yeah.
So, what are some sleep habits that you can help people understand will help them now and hopefully help them after? Because the minute you said the word sleep, I was thinking of our friend Seth. But then again, I was also thinking about this idea of, like, good luck with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because, when I talk about, and I don't mean to get too deep into this, but, in the preconception planning, my goal is always to bring in experts in all of these different areas. So sleep is not my expertise. I can talk on it and I will, but Seth is there to be the expert. And I have people, he comes in and he'll talk to people about that. So I have lots of these cool experts who come in and can give really good details and tips. But, one of the things that I think we hear a lot, but we really don't take it in, is the blue light. the blue light from the computer, the blue light from our phones, and sitting in bed on the TV, or not on the TV, but watching the TV, scrolling through our phones, scrolling through the iPad, it's incredibly damaging, but it messes with our circadian rhythm. But my eyes are going bad, and they seem to be going bad quickly. But for so long, I sat and I looked at the blue light, and I know that's a big component of it. I now there's no more blue light on my computer, on my phone. So when I'm looking at it, it's a little more red, actually.
Yeah.
But, that's a big one. And, going to sleep and getting up at the same time, which is sometimes a difficult one for me. But, weekends and weekdays, go to bed, wake up at the same time, go outside, get that sunlight before 10 a.m. and do your reading with no sunglasses. Go outside between 10 and 2 to get that good sun on your skin. Don't be afraid of the sun. If I could express anything, the sun is not the devil. The sun is our friend. The sun is everything to us. We don't grow if we don't have the sun, and our body doesn't thrive if we don't have sunlight on our skin, unprotected, no sunscreen. We have to have it as part of the immune system. Anybody with an autoimmune condition needs to get out in the sun. Now, everybody's going to be a little bit different. Sharon, you're a little more fair than I am, so your time could be 5 minutes. My time could be 15, 20, or 30 minutes, and a lot of times it is. But, we want to respect the sun, but not fear it. It is our friend. It is one of the best things that we have.
And I'm glad you brought up those two different types of sun exposure. I was not aware until last year that our eyeballs need sun. I was like going out for the vitamin D on the skin type of it. But I was listening to a sleep expert who was talking about in the morning, the most important thing to do is not look at your email, don't turn on the news, go out and expose your eyeballs to the sun. Yeah. And yeah, guys, this is not like staring at an eclipse, okay?
No, just go outside. You don't have to stare at the sun, just go outside.
I just want to throw that out there. Sometimes I want people to be like, oh, let's overdue. No, this is
too literal.
But take care of your eyes, but they do need exposure to the sun. As well as the idea of circadian rhythms and understanding going to bed at the same time. Pretty soon you automatically wake up at the same time. It's interesting to me how your body adapts. And at first I thought I could cheat. It was really funny. I was like, I do really good at 10 o'clock. And then over the weekend would roll around or some other excuse. And I would feel like I'd slipped way back further than I expected. Like, just another day to catch up, but it would take me 3 or 4 days to catch up. And that was a weird thing I understood about circadian rhythms is, you respect those things.
It's how we're built, right? It's biochemistry, it's biology. We are intended we have natural rhythms. The earth has natural rhythms. The animals have everything is in rhythm. And we can so easily throw it out, so take alcohol, right? We'd have even a glass of wine or a beer or whatever, which I'm not opposed to, don't get me wrong. I do enjoy gluten-free beer and a little wine here and there, but it can totally throw off our sleep cycles. People a lot of times will say, I just am not sleeping well. Well, are you having a drink before bed? Well, yeah, I come home and I grab a drink or two, and that's, then I'm just not sleeping well. So that's probably a big piece of it. Alcohol is not great for sleep. It's not great for much of anything really, except it's just so social, right? But they can really throw us out of whack.
So weird rabbit hole here for you, Nikki.
Yeah.
If I'm planning, and I'm either mom or dad, or if I'm planning on, and we're in this pre-planning stage, should I cut out alcohol?
I think it's smart. Now I also want to be realistic, and I know how people are, and the intent is, I always tell my clients this, my intent is not to make you crazy. My intent is to help you and to guide you and to kind of move you forward in whatever that looks like, whatever steps that looks like for you. But alcohol is certainly not going to help. It's inflammatory. Don't fall for the, I can drink wine because it's got, resveratrol and polyphenols in it. It does, but it has toxins in it. It's got added sugars in it, especially, your mainstream wine. So, if you want those things, eat them or take them in supplement form. Don't depend on wine for them. But yeah, at the very least, I would minimize it. I would minimize as much as you can, because you're working toward a goal. And if that goal is healthy body, healthy pregnancy, healthy baby, alcohol is not your friend.
Well, we have just about 10 minutes. I want to make sure you have enough time. What would you like to share with people who are thinking about the preconception state of planning that I haven't asked you?
Oh, gosh. I feel like I've said so much already. We talked so much about that. I think it really is just taking to heart, and this is being repetitive, and I just can't help it though, but take to heart the power that you have. Take to heart the power of both, and I say both of you. My goal is always I know I mostly work with women, but when it comes to this, I always want the men involved. And I'm hoping they'll be really involved. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But it is important because it's 50-50. But don't allow for your frustration to come in. Find the help, find the guidance. If you are just starting and you have no symptoms, still, if you're looking to get pregnant in 2 months, in 2 years, take the time to understand your body, maybe do some basic labs, maybe understand, as much as you can about the healthiest foods that you can eat to really be supportive, because you may not have symptoms now, but you could have symptoms later. If you're dealing with autoimmune condition, you really want to try to get that as controlled as possible. It's an interesting phenomenon. What happens when you go into pregnancy, you have an autoimmune disease, the immune system flips in order for you not to reject the baby when you are pregnant. You come out, you have the baby, and your immune system flips back. A lot of times women get massive flares. And so, you've got the hormones and all the things, and you can have these flares and they're not fun. But if you go into it as healthy as possible, obviously your pregnancy is good because your immune system is, different. But I had a client like this. She has Hashimoto's. And so she was fearful. She had some pretty good flares, and she was fearful coming out that she would flare, and she didn't. But she really took the time to take care of herself. And, we worked together a lot to help her through the process. And she didn't flare. She did great. So it's just really, taking accountability.
I want to step back because as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about the early stages of my condition before I went into remission, and bringing the topic up with other medical providers, like perhaps I'm still on an immune suppressant drug or something else, and talking to my rheumatologist and whomever else is involved in that current state of care, letting them know my desires. Mm-hmm. And having those tough conversations at that level too. Mm-hmm. Do you have any tips for when you're on those immune suppressant drugs? I mean, I know this is generalized.
Yep.
But is that, I suppose, the minute you start thinking about it, you better start talking to your doctor, or your rheumatologist, or other medical providers about this, and bringing in everybody into the loop.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a key part to making sure that the people on your team are on your side and are willing to work together and communicate on your behalf. Ideally, you work on your body enough to a point to where maybe in an ideal world, I've seen it happen, that you don't have to take the immune suppressants. I mean, immune suppressants can be beneficial, and I think there's a place for them. But are they intended to be long-term? I keep hearing from a conventional medical world that they have to be long-term. But in my experience with my clients, they don't necessarily have to be long-term. So that's a discussion between you and your doctor and your providers, your practitioners, all of those people, to help you get you, the general you, where you want to be for your body and for your baby, right? So I as a nutritionist can't and won't tell people to get off their immunosuppressants, but I certainly will help guide people if that's their goal and their doctor knows and that's what they're trying to do everything that I can to help them reach their goal. Does that help?
Yeah, it does help, because I'm thinking just having a diagnosis adds such a bigger, delicate layer to this, that we don't want someone to go back into flare if they're well controlled. And yet there's so many things. A lot of those different medications I was on early, I can't imagine taking them while I was trying to conceive. So I'm thinking, wow, in my mind, this could be quite a long-term plan. And so if this is something in your goals, to begin to set those wheels in motion early.
Well, and having the understanding that although there may be drugs that are approved during pregnancy, if you are suppressing your own immune system, you're also suppressing that child's immune system. And so there are drugs, there are toxins, there are all of these things that are passed through to baby, because it's all the same bloodstream, right? It's all the placenta, can be passed through milk. And so having that knowledge so you can make the decisions that are the best decisions for you is what I think is the most important. Not everybody is going to do what I say and what I think is best, but I'm not them. My goal is to give the knowledge and provide you with the biggest tool belt that you possibly can, so you can go and make the best decisions.
Oh, I think that's the way, regardless whether I'm trying to conceive or not, is the best way to get healthy. Because as I mentioned in the opening, I've never seen one autoimmune expression look identical to the next, right. Even if they had the same diagnosis. Exactly. I'm always surprised, like, the same diagnosis, and yet you're talking about people in two completely different states of health. Right. It is really surprising to me how this all has to be so individualized. And one of my big takeaways here is, if this is your goal, you can't start planning too soon, right?
It's true. It's true. If you're willing and you're in college, you're like, I want to have babies in 10 years. The sooner the better, right? Start considering diet, start considering lifestyle, start considering all of it. Absolutely. Especially if the epigenetic parts of it are 7 years. And I'm just curious about the 7-year number. Is that because of the limits of science? I know epigenetics is not new, but then again, it's not an ancient science either. Or I'm just curious, I'm assuming it's probably out even longer than 7 years, but that's just my guess. So, I mean, it's a great question. And so I would call epigenetics new, because I say we, it certainly wasn't me, but we mapped out the human genome, what was it, like 2001 or something?
Right. That's why I'm wondering if this 7 years, maybe I got to be careful, because it's out longer than that. I mean,
it wouldn't surprise me a bit, but at that point, when the human genome was mapped out, we're like, okay, our genetics, that's who we are. And that was the thought, until however long after that they discovered the epigenome. And so, I mean, 2001 was not that long ago. And so can we say, at that point, even if it's 2005, 2010, it's still a really new science. And there's so much that we don't know and that we don't understand. But it's a beautiful thing, because it is I don't know if it's the epitome, but it's amazing, because we will have the ability to super individualize supplements and medications and things like that, hopefully soon, to our genetics, to our epigenetics. So we, so we know what the expression is going to be. The 7 years does not come from me. It comes from a conference that I was in. It was an Institute for Functional Medicine training course that I was in. And one of the speakers is the one who said the data now shows that we can express 7 generations down. And that's when I just went, I have to tell this to everybody, because who doesn't know this? And it's amazing, and or who everybody needs to know this. And it's truly amazing and puts a lot of accountability on us, but also gives us a lot of power. And so I say it all the time. I probably say it too much, but I say it all the time because it's a huge number. And as the science of epigenetics expands and we learn more, could it change? Certainly it could change. I mean, it changes all the time. But that's what we know right now.
Right. Right. And not unlike our wellness journey for our remission and recovery from autoimmune, can't start planning and taking care of our bodies too soon. And so in my mind, healthy body, regardless of where I am on the stage, maybe I'm, up here at my age and still want that healthy body.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I've been hearing is what I'll say practical. It's to me, a lot of it is, I don't want to diminish it, but a lot of it is common sense.
You would think,
but sometimes common sense isn't so common, is it?
Not so common. Yeah. Well, there's just so much confusion. We've got the internet, and we've got, conventional medicine, we've got functional medicine, and we've got all of these things, and holistic, and, we've got, money out there that is, that has an agenda, high fat's bad. Well, we now know that's wrong. Well, most of us know, not everybody does. We're bombarded with so much information that it just makes it really confusing what's right and what's not right, which is sort of what brought me to this place. I have, had my own journey, but I was like, I need to know what's right, and I need to know how to figure out what's right, because I don't know who to trust.
Yeah. And I say what's right for me, because
exactly.
I can be talking to one of my siblings, and they're expressed completely different, even though same mom and dad, they're completely different individuals.
Yep, absolutely.
So we're just out of time. Nikki, I want everybody to know how to find you. So give us a little bit of background on how people can find you and some other good details that I forgot.
All of the good stuff. So my company is Taste Like Nutrition. I do both individualized consulting as well as group consulting. Where I am expanding into, of course, is the preconception planning, and my program is Soulful Conception, and it's purposeful living for a healthy body, a healthy baby, or healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby. And so we are not quite launched, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks we're launching. I'm super excited about it, really, because I want people to know what I have to say, but I know that I'm not the end all be all. And I'm surrounded by people who have so many gifts to give when it comes to helping women go through the process of preparing for pregnancy, or even if they're in the process of going through any kind of fertility treatments, right? I want people from all spectrums to have access to people, they're my guest experts, because they might need a part of what I have, but they might need somebody else even more. And so I want them to see the amazing people, the amazing experts who are out there who can help to guide and show them a path to creating that healthy family. And that's really my ultimate goal, is just to give as much of that as I possibly can.
Oh, and you are just such a fabulous person, fabulous giver. Nikki, I just love you so much. Thank you for sharing this. Yeah. Everyone, that's Nikki Burnett from Taste of Nutrition. And we'll have all our information up over at understandingautoimmune.com as well. Everyone, have a great week. Thanks for sharing this time with us together. Enjoy your adventures and join me next week for another brand new episode.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Sharon. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you too, Nikki. Thanks so much. Enjoy.
The information provided on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, including the websites understandingautoimmune.com and lifeinterruptedradio.com, plus social media, is for educational purposes only. What you read, hear, and see on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, and its websites, and other media outlets is based on experience only. The information should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes.
Research shows we apologize up to 10 times a day, and most of the time, we say sorry as a response to someone else's mistake. What if we thanked people instead of all that unnecessary apologizing? So instead of saying, sorry, I'm rambling, you say, thank you for listening. Join us at projectforgive.com, a free, non-religious resource on global forgiveness.
Do you want to be a better leader, have better relationships, become more self-aware, be a better communicator? Hi, I'm Sharon Sayler, best-selling author, professional speaker, and executive coach. And my life passion is empowering professionals to be the best that they can be. After years of working with professionals, I've discovered the 7 things nobody is telling you that can cost you your clients, sales, and even your career. And I want to give it to you free. You've heard my show, you know my passion, and maybe we'll be working together sooner rather than later. So go grab this ebook now to find out the 7 things that's costing you big time over at SharonSayler.com/radio gift.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.